Onward VR is a tactical VR shooter released on November 9th, 2017, focused on team play, commonly referred to as the Rainbow Six Siege and Counter-Strike of VR, even though Breaches is basically VR Siege and Pavlov is VR CSGO. I have hundreds of hours in this game. The gunplay feels amazing, and the high-stakes gameplay where basically every gun kills in 2 shots makes each round feel incredibly intense. And if you're not feeling like gambling on whether you'll have a god tier sweat for a teammate or an actual fetus, you can hop into some free roam or shooting range lobbies and have either the best time of your life or a time so god awful it makes you want to reach for a cop's gun and kill yourself. But there is a reason why this video is called Onward is the best worst VR game. But let's first start off with the positives. Let me glaze this game for a bit. Onward VR has some of the best guns in VR. They're not exactly H3 VR level, but they do feel incredible to use. From my experience of playing VR games, guns in VR are clearly very difficult to get right. You don't want them too weighty, but you don't want them too weightless either. And while Onward is more on the weightless side, it somehow just feels perfect. At least to me. I have zero clue if saying Onward has some of the best feeling guns in VR is a hot take or not, but it's just my opinion, so please don't kill me. Thanks. I'm praying that atmosphere is the right term here, but every match I play in this game is damn tense. Let me give a quick explanation of my personal go-to Onward mode, Uplink. There's 2 teams, Marsoc and Volk. The Marsoc have to fund the satellite uplink and input a 7-digit code to win, while the Volk have to defend the satellite uplink. You can also win by eliminating the other team. This mode is the most similar to Siege's bomb mode, and this can be mad tense, especially on night maps, as if you're Marsoc, Volk can literally blend into the environment as their outfit is entirely black. Peeking corners in hopes that you don't get immediately head tapped is actually scary in VR.
Where the fuck was that?
I looked away from that bitch. The immersion really makes you feel like a Desert Storm vet trapped in a war zone with a flock of child soldiers. This game can be brutally difficult at times. 9 times out of 10 when you eventually die, the first word you immediately think of is where. In a game where 90% of weapons 2-shot, you're essentially rewarded for camping, which may sound like a bad thing, but in my opinion it makes the game 10 times more intense.
Hey, locking in.
So Onward VR as a game is great, but there are so many little issues I have that just end up leaving a bad taste in my mouth by the time I finish playing. Starting with... Seriously, there has to be an actual reason why almost every single VR game is filled with the Fortnite youth, right? This is kind of a Pavlov situation, because if you dare to hop into one of the more social game modes like shooting range or free roam, you have 12-year-olds ripping the craziest sentences with a higher slur count than a tweet from a Twitter checkmark user, or you'll have a grown-ass man saying the same shit because he hasn't mentally matured past 12. And if you even dare to shoot some people in the shooting game, you will be vote kicked faster than you can even blink. I did mention that 90% of the player base is children, right? Unfortunately, some of these gremlins have escaped their containment unit of free roam and shooting range and are starting to show up in actual matches. This can literally ruin an entire match for you, as if you even dare make a mistake or tell the screeching child to stop screeching, you will be TK'd into oblivion. Onward has a fairly large cheater problem. I distinctly remember hopping into a shooting range lobby, only to be greeted with about 150 basketballs on the ground, completely lagging out my headset. There were also some modders in another server that dropped infinite ammo pistols with switches on them, and while these do seem harmless, this is maybe what 5% of what Onward cheaters do. The other 95% just spam kill everyone in the server over and over and over again until everyone leaves. I also saw this insane method a cheater used to stop people from vote kicking them by going into the spawn room where you can pick your loadout and such, and covering up the scoreboard with body shields so you can't physically kick them out. I'm fairly lucky I haven't encountered players like this in the actual PvP modes, but the fact the game is that easy to cheat in that it's basically a guarantee you'll encounter one in social modes is insane. And if you think you're safe from dealing with cheaters on Quest, you aren't, because the game is crossplay between PC and Quest, which is the second bad thing that's happened to this game because of crossplay. with the first to being... This game got absolutely butchered when it was brought over to Quest. On July 30th, 2020, Onward VR came to the Quest ecosystem, specifically the Quest 1, as the Quest 2 was still a few months away from releasing, and to keep parity between Quest and PC VR, they decided to completely annihilate the graphics for the PC VR version, to make the game actually run on what is basically a glorified 2014 Android phone. It would have been fun if they maybe kept PC VR and Quest Onward separated for a bit, until a new headset came out that could actually get somewhat close to the PC VR version, but instead they decided to sacrifice the PC VR game's beautiful looking visuals. And you know what's funny? Ever since, the game has never gotten close to looking as good as it did pre-Quest. We had a big 2.0 update about a year ago that made the game graphically look ever so slightly better, but it's never looked as good as it did all those years ago, and we'll probably never get a graphics update either because Meta did what Meta does best and shut down the developers of Onward VR, Downpour Interactive, and those who weren't immediately fired were moved over to Camouflage. And then Meta did what Meta does best and fired almost everyone at Camouflage, leaving only a skeleton crew behind. This means we are 100% never getting any updates to Onward ever again. Your reports against insanely toxic players and cheaters will never get read. Those muddy looking graphics will never be addressed, and there will never be a content update ever again. I'm surprised the game hasn't been shut down, in all honesty. If Meta willingly shut down a game like Echo Arena, which was pulling tens of thousands of players daily, I wouldn't be shocked if Onward servers are next on the chopping block. It feels like companies like Meta and Xbox are in some kind of corpo race to see who can buy out and shut down as many companies as possible. I'd beg for someone to try and create a tactical VR shooter focused on team play made to be a spiritual successor to Onward, but the tactical VR shooter scene right now has some kind of curse I implore everyone to steer clear from. I don't really know how to end this video. Subscribe.